Welcome to lesson 2.8. Your objective is I will be able to solve percent problems to find the whole. It's kind of like the reverse of 2.7. Alright, so last class, I have this note for us here. Last class, like we did, 5% of 60 is 3. So you did 5%, which is 0.05 as a decimal, of means times 60, and you would get 3 because 6 times 5 is 30, and we had to move some decimals over after that. We had 2 decimal places. All right, but this time it's going to be division. This class we will do 3 is 5% of what number? Okay, so it's going to be 3 divided by 5%, which would be 0.05. And I bet you can guess what the answer will be here. We're not going to do the actual problem. It will be 60. All right, so when you see 3 is 5% of what number? It's division. Last class is 5% of. So when the percent and of are together, that is multiply. All right, well, I guess it's, when the percent and of are first, it's multiply. This is 3 is 5% of what number? So when the 5% of is last, then it's division. You just go in order, really. 3 divided by 5%. Last night, or last video, was 5% times 60. All right, so today is going to be the reverse. If that's confusing, we'll help you out tomorrow, but hopefully by the end of this lesson, you got it. All right, so first problem. 10 is 25% of what number? All right, so notice how our 25% of comes after the 10, and there's an is in between as well. So that means 10 divided by, we could say this is going to be divided by 25% of what number? Because we don't know what that number is going to be. We don't know. All right, that's kind of the order. 10 divided by 25% is what number? And the is kind of like a division sign. Kind of like the of yesterday was multiplication. This is going to be division today. All right, so if I'm looking at that, 10 divided by 25%, I don't like to deal with percents, so I'm going to turn that into a decimal. I swoop twice, and I have 0.25 or 25 hundredths. Now, this is 10 divided by 25 hundredths, so I have 10 divided by 25 hundredths. Remember, this is the read way, the work way, it switches. So how many times can 25 go into 10? Well, first of all, before I do anything, you remember from a couple chapters ago, I can't divide right there. I got to swoop it over. So I swoop it till it's a whole number, 1, 2, and now I have to swoop this one over, 1, 2, and fill in these holes. Okay, so now I'm left with 25 going into 1,000. Here we go. 25 cannot go into 1 or 10 evenly, but it can go into 100. So 25 goes into 100 4 times. 4 times 25 is 100. Minus that, I have to bring down my 0. How many times can 25 go into 0? 0 times. The answer is 40. All right? So 10 is 25% of what number? The answer is 40. Now, if you think about it differently, another way to think about this, all right, 10 is 25% of what number? So if 25% equals 10, then 50% would equal 20. All right, 75% would equal 30, and then 100%, because we're trying to get back to 100% of that number, equals 40. That's a different way to think about this one. All right, so 10 is 25% of what number? 40. 2 ways to get the answer there, but that won't always be the case. It might be harder thinking next time. Let's see about this number. 15 is 30% of what number? Now, here's the problem. I can't get, like last problem, I just try to add up till I get 1%. 30% doesn't go into 100, so I could say 30% is 15, 60% would be 30, 90% would be 45. So my answer should be around 50 somewhere. Well, let's see what happens. 15 divided by 30%. All right? So that is because 15 is 30% of, we don't know what the number is. 15 divided by 30%. Okay? Just like last time, I certainly cannot divide with a percentage, so I turn to a decimal. But once again, I can't have a decimal out here. I have to make this a whole number. So I'm going to swoop it again, and I swoop here, 1, 2. So now I have 30 going into 1,500. Here we go. How many times can 30 go into 15? It can't. 30 going into 150. Let's count. 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. Oh, perfect. Goes in 5 times. 5 times 30 is 150. You get 0. Bring down your 0. How many times can 30 go into 0? 0 times. And you have to do that, by the way. You can't just leave a 5 up there. Okay? You have to fill in your place value spots. All right? So if I have a 10s here, I can't just have a blank in my 1s. I have to fill it with a 0. It is 50. All right? So 15 is 30% of what number? 50. Remember my estimation earlier? I was right on. That was pretty lucky on my part. Or was it skill? All right, last example before you have a couple chances. 450 is 75% of what number? Okay, well, 450 is division 75% of what number? Now, I didn't do all of my setup this time. Uh-oh, I hope I remember what to do. Well, I know 75% is 75 hundredths, right? But the next thing is I have to realize I can't divide with decimal up there, so I got to swoop it. And we swoop it 1, 2 times, so there's a hidden decimal right here, 1, 2. We've got a big problem to do. All right. So I'll rewrite this as 45,000, and this is 75. So 75 goes into 45. It doesn't. 75 probably goes into 450. Let's count by 75s if you can. I could do it. 75, 150, 225, 300, 375, 450. Another perfect problem. Hopefully you'll have the same kind of luck today. Maybe not. 450, so that's 75 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 75 times 6 is 450. All right? And 6 times 75 is 450. Minus that, and you get 0. Looks like we have some zeros to do. Bring down my 0. How many times can 75 go into 0? Well, 0 times. Bring down my 0. How many times can 75 go into 0? 0 times. The answer is 600. All right? So if you think about it backwards, 75, like the lesson from before, 75% of 600 will equal 450. And you would do 0.75 times 600, because of means times, and that would equal 450. All right, so last lesson, this lesson go hand in hand. They're just the reverse of each other. All right, you have 2 problems to do right now. 40 is 20% of what number? I'm going to set up the first one for you. So you have 40, and I said today is will mean divide 20% of what number we don't know. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to do 40 divided by 20%, which is 0.20. All right. I could even make that 0.2 if I want to. Swoop it over once, or if I made it 20, swoop it over twice, and I swoop over here twice. I would make it just 0.2, so you don't have to swoop once, but that's up to you. All right, good luck. And if you struggle, we'll go over tomorrow, but really try your best on these problems. All right, we'll see you soon.